everyone, it's Gojira Prime here with a little video, and today we are taking a look at Transformers Legacy Sandstorm. Now, this is a figure I got earlier in the year, and if I'm honest, initially it's a figure that was not on my radar list because of the price tag that was attached to it. Hasbro decided to class Sandstorm as a leader class figure, even though really it's a Voyager class figure, and because of that they put on a £55 price tag for it, which I didn't think was actually deserved. So I waited quite a while, and eventually I stumbled across it at Maniac Miners here in the UK, and I decided to get him because he was at a very, very reasonable price. So, as always, we'll go through the vehicle modes. There's two with this one because it's a triple changer. We'll take a look at both of those, then we'll take a look at the robot mode, and then we'll do some size comparisons. So, first off, we have him in this mode, and this is the beach buggy mode. It doesn't look a lot like a beach buggy that I would assume, but there you go. It is the beach buggy mode. It's a very heavily armed beach buggy mode with one of his cannons on the top there. But yeah, it's okay for an alternate mode. I have no real major complaints. It looks quite good. It doesn't look much like what the character looked like in the cartoon series, if I'm honest, but there you go. But still, it rolls very nicely. It's got some nice molded details, nice Autobot logo there on the roof, which will eventually turn into the chest section. All the bits and pieces fold away okay. I do think the Springer triple change was a much better triple changer than this one. It was also a lot cheaper as well. But all in all, it's not bad. You can still see aspects of the helicopter mode, especially if you flip him, and you can see the rotors just there under the vehicle. He does have quite a large gap there at the front, but that's not really a massive problem at the end of the day. You've got some nice, detailed things here on the windows. I'm guessing that's like the protector bits that they have on there. I don't know a lot about dune buggies, if I'm brutally honest, but it's an okay vehicle mode. Not a lot really to shout about really on this one. It rolls very nicely. You can take this bit off here if you wanted to, if it'll come off, that is. And this bit is actually part of the cage section, because it comes like a rescue cage, and that's the top of the cage bit there, which functions as an engine cover for him. And I've now completely just transformed him by doing that. And then the other part of the cage section is the floor, which is this bit here. And that's it, really, for the car mode. I've kind of dismantled him now by taking apart the cage section at the back. But like I say, it's an okay vehicle mode. Obviously, with triple changes, they have to make sacrifices. But yeah, it's okay. Looks nice. Engine detailing there as well. The wheels are quite nicely molded as well. I do like those wheels. But that's about it, really, for that mode. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video, get him turned into helicopter mode, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so here we have Sandstorm now in his second vehicle mode, which is a Sea King helicopter inspired thing. I have to admit, out of the two vehicle modes, the helicopter I think is probably the better. It does look more like a Sea King than a dune buggy, but you do still have the wheels that do stick out quite a bit, so they are visible. But again, this is a triple changer. They're going to make compromises in order to get this thing to work. So the front's quite nicely detailed. You've got the big cockpit section there with all the blacked out windows, and then his winch component goes down here, and I'll show that off in a minute, and the rotors at the top, which spin a little bit, so you do get some spinning action out of that. And then you've got the tail section here with its little rotor as well. And that's about it really for this. I mean, it's a very bright shade of orange, as you would expect for Sandstorm, but no real massively details on here, or massive details on here. Again, you do have the chest section with the Autobot logo on the bottom, but that's about it. I would have liked it if maybe they'd stuck a couple of small Autobot logos here on the tail section, or maybe something on the front here as well, but they didn't, so there you go. You can, with the winch system, once you disassemble it, you can make a little cage there, or rescue cage, and then what you do is you just, with the harness or the rope bit plugged in underneath, you can just pull out your rope as much as you'd like, attach it to the top of the cage section here like so, and then you've got a little rescue cage which dangles off the bottom of Sandstorm like so. So if you want to enact something like that, you can do if you want. Failing that, you can just take the the reel off if you want to. It can get a bit jarred in there because of the angle it's in, but it is doable somehow. Okay, so here we now have, after some fiddling and a little bit of swearing, we have Sandstorm in his robot mode. And if I'm honest, despite the fact that the transformation process is a little bit finicky because this is a triple changer, I actually think the robot mode's all right. It's not the version of the figure where he has the G1 cartoon accurate face. This is the version of the figure which has the toy accurate face. So this is what the face of the toy looked like in the 1980s. But all in all, it's good. I like it. You can still see the car parts and the helicopter parts dotted around the place, but it doesn't interfere too much with the overall figure. I think the detailing is still nice and visible. Makes the figure look interesting. You've got different shades of orange, so nothing, it just doesn't appear to just meld into one giant lump of orange. There's different colors and shades in there, which makes it interesting enough. Now, articulation-wise, because you've got this backpack which kind of goes around his head and so forth, the head will go to the side, like so, and to the other side, like so. You can get a little bit of movement up and down, but not a lot. So really, that's the best pose for the head. The arm will go up that far because the backpack does get in the way, but you do have some elbow action as well. The hand is a solid molded piece of plastic, but it will rotate round on a full 360. He does have some waist action, but again, the backpack gets in the way quite a bit. Leg-wise, full movement forward, a bit of movement on the back, but again, the backpack gets in the way, and you do have some movement at the knee and also some ankle tilt as well. So you can get him into some good poses if you do want to. I have to admit, when I'm doing my toy photography, this isn't a figure I've actually shown a lot of love to. I'm going to have to start doing some pictures of him, I think, really. I'll try and get some good ones in anyway. Accessories-wise, you've got the main blaster, which will fit in either hand in the 5mm port. And likewise, you've got the smaller grey blaster, which will also fit in his other hand if wanted. Now, you can also plug the cage into either of his hands as well and use that as like a hand weapon if you wanted. That's also something you could do. But when he's on my shelf, it's both weapons in hand, and there he stands. All in all, I think it's a nice figure. I like the face. I like it's got a nice range of articulation despite the backpack, and I think it looks really good. If I'm honest, I was never that big of a fan of Sandstorm back in the 1980s or since, but I decided to get this figure because, like I said, he wasn't on my radar initially because of the £55 price tag, but with him coming down to £35 second hand, which I thought was a reasonable price for the figure, because that's what the Springer cost when it was first released, I think it was a good enough deal. So, let's do some size comparisons. Here he is with Titans Returns Topspin. It is bizarre that old Deluxes were this big, isn't it? They've taken a bit of a hit, I think, old Deluxe size figures, but there you go. So that's Topspin with him. Here he is with one of the cone heads, Thrust. Here he is with Nemesis Prime, who is so big he doesn't fit on the screen. And here he is with the only size comparison that really matters at the end of the day, with Siege Springer. Now, height-wise, head-to-head, they're about the same height. But for some reason, and this, like I said, this was the main gripe with this Sandstorm figure. When Siege Springer came out, he was, what, 35 pounds? When this figure first came out, he was 55 pounds. Now, I know Hasbro probably tried to explain it away with all the engineering and bits and pieces that were on Sandstorm. I think that's a load of rubbish at the end of the day. And I think they were just trying to pull a fast one on us, which is probably why I was able to get this guy for 35 pounds secondhand, because, you know. But, yeah, there he is with Springer. So, is this figure worth getting? Well, if you're a fan of triple changes, then yeah, this is probably one that you do want to add to your collection. If Sandstorm is a favorite character of yours, yes, you're going to want to add him to your collection. If you're a G1 guy like me and you want to do a complete collection, then obviously, this is one figure you're going to have to add, though he probably isn't high up your list. This figure's biggest problem was the price tag that was attached to it, I think, back when it first came out. And that probably put a lot of people off getting him initially, and they waited for him to come down in price. I think this is a good Transformers figure. It's not the best. If I'm honest, I think Springer is probably the better triple changer. This bit here with this backpack with the helicopter bits on it does put some limitations on the articulation, but not too many. But again, I do think it's worth getting. I think he looks nice. The alternate modes, well, they like I said, they always have to make sacrifices when it comes to triple changes to make them work. But I think the vehicle modes, both the car and the helicopter, are okay. I do think the helicopter is probably the better alternate mode. But I would say, yeah, get him. He's worth adding to your collection, I think, at the end of the day. But let me know in the comment section. Is this a figure you have? A figure you had? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do let me know. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Hit like, hit subscribe, and thank you very, very much.